You walk into a modern grocery store in the year 2026. You are standing in the dairy aisle, that sterile, refrigerated corridor of enlightenment. You see cow milk, goat milk, sheep milk, and an entire battalion of plant-based liquids extracted from almonds, oats, soy, and peas. You are essentially looking at the collective agricultural history of 10,000 years. But there is a glaring, silent void on those shelves. Where is the pig milk? We have mastered the art of extracting protein from almost every creature that walks, flies, or swims. We have spent billions in the 21st century perfecting synthetic cheese. Yet, the pig, an animal so common it effectively serves as the garbage disposal of the human race, remains unmilked. We treat this as a given, a biological or cultural factoid that simply exists. But what if I told you that pig milk is not forbidden by the gods, nor is it poisonous? What if I told you that the reason you have never had a bowl of pig milk cereal is not because the pig refuses to provide it, but because the pig has essentially outsmarted our entire capitalist model of efficiency? This isn't just about a missed culinary trend. This is about a fundamental friction between biology and the human desire for convenience. We're about to look at why, in our quest to dominate the food chain, we hit a wall shaped exactly like a very annoyed, very uncooperative hog. The answer isn't in a chemistry textbook. It is in the anatomy of a 30-second struggle that has been happening since we first decided that farming was a better idea than running from saber-toothed tigers. Let us start with the most basic, undeniable reality. The pig is not a cooperative dairy participant. If you have ever been around a sow, you know that they are not exactly the zen, grass-chewing entities we imagine when we think of dairy farms. They are intelligent, temperamental, and possess a level of stubbornness that would make a rock blush. But let us set aside the personality issues for a moment and look at the raw mechanics. When you milk a cow, you are working with an animal that has evolved or been bred to hold a significant amount of milk in its udder. It is a biological storage tank waiting to be emptied. The pig, however, is a different beast entirely. A sow does not have a large, convenient udder. She has teats, lots of them, but they are not storage units. They are essentially delivery pipes that only open when the piglets are ready to feed. The entire milk letdown process in a pig lasts for about 15 to 20 seconds. That is it. That is your entire production cycle. You have 15 seconds to convince a creature that weighs 300 pounds to remain perfectly still while you attempt to work with tiny, difficult-to-reach teats. It is not just a job. It is a tactical military operation that results in very little yield. If you were an ancient farmer in the year 1000, would you spend your morning wrestling a hog for a thimbleful of liquid, or would you stick to the cow that practically hands you a gallon while chewing its cud? The choice is obvious. We didn't avoid pig milk because it tastes like pork chop extract. We avoided it because the ROI, the return on investment, is essentially negative. It is the world's most inefficient business model. It is like trying to mine gold with a plastic spoon while the gold is actively trying to bite your hand off. Why did we evolve to rely on cows and goats, but not our porcine neighbors? To understand this, we have to look at the evolutionary trajectory of the pig itself. Pigs are opportunistic omnivores. In the wild, they were the ultimate survivors, capable of eating anything from roots to small animals. They did not evolve to be communal, herd-based animals in the way cows did. Cows were the perfect candidates for domestication because they were already living in herds, already accustomed to social hierarchies, and already possessed a digestive system designed to process vast amounts of grass, a resource that was effectively free. The pig, however, was a competitor. It ate the same things we did. If you tried to keep a herd of pigs, you were directly competing with them for food. We didn't keep them for dairy, we kept them as living composters. We gave them our scraps, and in exchange, they gave us meat. This is a crucial distinction that most people miss in the 21st century. We didn't decide, let's see what this pig can offer us dairy-wise. We decided, you eat my trash, I eat your bacon. And let's never speak of the logistics of lactation again. The pig never entered the human agricultural contract as a producer of anything other than fat and protein. Trying to force a dairy role onto an animal that was never designed for it is a masterclass in human hubris. We look at the pig today, in the year 2026, and we assume that because it is a mammal, it should provide milk. But that is applying a modern, industrial logic to an ancient, survival-based relationship. The pig was never a dairy cow in disguise. It was a partner in a very specific, very cynical survival pact. Let's address the elephant, or rather, the pig in the room. What does it actually taste like? If you were to somehow overcome the logistical nightmare, if you built a specialized robot to track the 15-second letdown cycle, what would you get? Pig milk is incredibly high in fat. It is rich, dense, and creamy, far more so than cow milk. Some might say it sounds like a culinary dream. A artisanal pig milk cheese? A rich fatty creamer for your morning coffee? But here is the problem with high-fat, high-protein milk. It is incredibly difficult to stabilize. Cow milk is mostly water, which makes it easy to process and preserve. Pig milk is a biological concentrate. It is basically the liquid version of a heavy cream, and it is prone to spoilage and separation at an alarming rate. In the pre-refrigeration era, before the year 1900, processing something that volatile would have been a scientific miracle. Even if you managed to churn it into butter or cheese, you would be fighting against its chemical composition every single step of the way. We often romanticize ancient wisdom, as if our ancestors were just one genius idea away from a utopia of various milks. But the truth is more boring. We didn't drink pig milk because we tried, and we realized it was a path to nowhere. It was like trying to fuel a car with high-performance rocket fuel when you only have a rusted-out garden hose to transport it. The substance is fine, but the infrastructure to handle it doesn't exist, and it never will, because we have already found the path of least resistance. Consider the modern industrial dairy farm. It is a marvel of automation. The cows enter a carousel, the machines attach themselves automatically. The milk is pumped into giant vats, pasteurized, and sent to a store near you. It is a system built on repetition and uniformity. Now, imagine trying to fit a pig into that system. You have an animal that is biologically diverse, highly aggressive when protective of its young, and completely unsuited for uniform automation. In the 21st century, efficiency is the god we worship. We don't care if a food source is technically viable, we care if it is scalable. Pig milk fails the scalability test on every conceivable metric. It is not just that it is hard to get, it is that it is hard to handle. The hygiene standards required to process such a high-fat liquid, combined with the behavioral volatility of the source animal, would make the cost of a single gallon of pig milk astronomical. You would be looking at a product that costs hundreds of dollars per liter. It would be a luxury item that tastes like a headache. We have arrived at a point where we have so much food variety that we forget why some things aren't on the menu. We assume that if something exists, we should be able to buy it. But the history of human food is a graveyard of things we tried and abandoned, because they were simply too much effort for too little reward. The pig milk isn't a secret that has been kept from us. It is a mistake we correctly decided not to repeat. This brings us to a deeper, more uncomfortable truth about ourselves. We are a species that likes to believe we are in control of our environment, that we have bent nature to our will. And to a large extent, we have. We have skyscrapers, the internet, and space travel. But when we look at something as simple as milk, we see that we are still bound by the same physical and biological constraints as our ancestors 5,000 years ago. We are lazy, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. Our entire civilization is built on the pursuit of energy efficiency. We don't want to work harder than we have to. That is why we domesticated the cow, not the pig, for dairy. That is why we chose wheat over harder-to-process grains. We are the architects of our own convenience. We like to think that we have infinite options, but those options are curated by the sheer physics of our own limitations. When you see that empty space on the shelf where the pig milk should be, don't view it as a failure of imagination. View it as a monument to our species' ability to eventually give up on bad ideas. We are constantly searching for new resources, but we are also constantly discarding the ones that are more trouble than they are worth. The pig is a perfect example of a successful species that we have kept around for very specific reasons, and dairy production just isn't one of them. We have defined the role of the pig, and the pig, in its own stubborn way, has agreed to play along, provided we don't try to get weird with the milk. So, here we are in the 21st century, still eating bacon, still making sausage, and still having a laugh at the idea of ever seeing a carton of pig milk in the dairy aisle. We have unraveled the mystery, and the conclusion is surprisingly simple. We didn't miss out on anything. There is no lost golden age of porcine dairy. There is only a long, messy, and fascinating history of trial and error. We have learned that the best way to thrive is not to try and do everything, but to find the things that actually work and perfect them until they become invisible parts of our daily life. The fact that we don't drink pig milk is not a tragedy. It is a victory of logic over absurdity. It is a sign that, somewhere along the line, we decided that some things were just not meant to be. And really, isn't that for the best? Imagine a world where we had to spend our mornings arguing with sows for a cup of liquid. It sounds less like a grocery store trip and more like a fever dream. We have enough stress in our lives in the year 2026 without adding negotiating with livestock to the morning routine. The pig remains the king of the meat aisle, and the cow remains the king of the dairy aisle. And in that division of labor, we find a strange sort of harmony that has allowed us to focus our energy on things that actually matter, like figuring out how to build a smartphone that doesn't run out of battery in 4 hours. So, the next time you are standing in that refrigerated aisle, scanning the labels for the perfect milk, just remember the pig. It is a creature that has been our partner, our competitor, and our garbage disposal. Yet it has firmly refused to be our dairy source. It didn't do it because it was mean, and it didn't do it because of some complex nutritional deficiency. It did it because biology is a wall that no amount of human ambition can easily scale. We are creatures of habit, shaped by the choices of those who came before us. People who probably tried to milk a pig, got kicked, and decided it was the last time. That is the history of human progress. It is not a straight line of discovery. It is a jagged path of realized limitations. We are still those same people, living in our air-conditioned world, still looking for the easiest way to survive. We might have conquered the globe, but we still respect the boundary of the pig's udder. And honestly, looking back at all the trouble we go through just to get our morning coffee, maybe the pig was right all along. They are living their best unmilked life, while we are left with the cold, sterile shelves of the future, wondering why some things remain the way they are. Sometimes, the most important answer is the one that tells us to stop looking, where there is nothing to find. Life is complex enough without adding a bucket, a pig, and a very short window of 15 seconds to the mix. The mystery is closed, the shelf is empty, and the pig is, thankfully, still just a pig.